Hey, what's going on? This is The Doug Show. My name's Doug Cunnington, and in this episode, I interview Jaryd Krause. He blogs, and I guess he has a podcast as well, over at Buying Online Businesses. And you should check out his blog. You should check out his podcast as well. I'll put links and stuff in the show notes. Jaryd's story is super interesting because he started off his career as a plumber. And as you can imagine, he sort of branched out and moved over to the online business category, and he buys online businesses. That's sort of his thing. And it makes a lot of sense because many businesses, as they're starting off, they fail in the beginning, right? So if you can get a business that's already running, it's making money, you can see the moving parts and everything, like you may be better off. You can sort of skip that early failure sort of timeline there. So anyway, Jaryd has some pretty cool resources I'll mention really quick before we get into the interview. Number one, a due diligence framework, which we reference within the interview. So when you see a website or a business for sale, it's often hard to tell, like, is it legit? Is it like worth what they're asking for, and that sort of thing. So the due diligence framework is very helpful. Further, he also has a website evaluator tool, and I'll put links in the description so you can get to it pretty easily. But in both cases, they can help you evaluate the value of a business and whether or not a business is legit through that due diligence framework. So before I send it over to the interview, do check out his podcast as well. Put a link for that. And without further ado, let's talk to Jaryd Krause. Hey, what's going on? It's Doug Cunnington here, and I'm sitting with Jaryd Krause. So how are you doing today?
I'm really good, thank you, Doug.
And
how are you?
I'm doing well too. We were just talking about how I'm warm right now because I turned the air conditioner off. But other than that, I'm doing great. So we don't know each other well. We actually just started talking about 10 minutes ago. So this will be a pretty, hopefully fun interview as we get to know each other. And for the people actually like myself who don't know you, Jaryd, can you give us a little bit of an intro, like what you do now and a little bit about your origin story?
Yeah, cool. What I do now is I teach people how to buy website businesses, people that want to sort of get to this space of, whole make money online type deal. And they come in and they want to learn, how to buy them rather than just grow them. And that's a different option. My origin is I was a plumber. I was working, crazy hours per week and commuting to work and all that fun. And it took me a while to get to the point where I was buying sites. I struggled a fair bit and then got to a point where I bought a couple. People found out about it, wanted to know more, and that's why we spawned into teaching.
Got it. And I detect a little bit of an accent. Are you from Texas?
No, I'm from across the border.
Okay.
No, I'm well across the border. I'm from Australia. Yeah.
Okay. Right on. Very cool. And you were a plumber before. So how did you make the transition over to purchasing websites and businesses in general? What happened there?
Yeah, well, there was a lot of struggle, as you could imagine. Any entrepreneur has that struggle phase, right? So I was working a lot and I'd quit work and I'd go away and I'd travel because I was like, all right, I'll save up for a year. I'm going to go away and travel for 6 months because the Aussie dollar's really good back then. Now it's not so good as we record, but and I'd go away and spend all my money, come home broke or with a little bit of money and then start working again and repeat that. And I was like, man, I need to I don't want to work. Like I'm running, like I thought I was running away from my job, but I was literally running away from what my life was at that time. And I sat down and I was in Egypt and I was a dive master. I did a dive master course, became a dive master, and I became a dive guide. And I realized like, this is what I want to do. I want to travel the world. But how do I do it, right? Like I literally jumped on Google and I typed in how to travel the world and make money online and popped up like travel bloggers. I'm like, that's it. I'm a travel blogger now. And I did that and struggled my way through travel blogging because everybody's a travel blogger and everybody now with an iPhone is a travel blogger. And so I did see that there wasn't a whole lot of money to be made in that, but I was just like, you know what, I got a chip on my shoulder. I'm going to show you that I can do this. And and I made a little bit of money. It wasn't enough to sustain a lifestyle. So I stopped that. And I thought, all right, I need to get proper online business, like a drop shipping business or something. And I started a drop shipping business and I failed. And I put so much work and effort into it. And it wasn't like it. The main reason I failed is because I spent a whole lot of time on it. I didn't spend too much money, but I spent so much time building this thing. And I just thought, you know, if I got a shop online, people are going to come and buy stuff. But it's not the case, right? Like you can have the best shop in the world, but it could be in the desert and nobody would know about it and you wouldn't make any money, even if the shop was made out of gold or whatever it is. So I failed at that. I didn't know what marketing was. I learned a whole lot about marketing, and then I thought, well, I'm going to go away and buy a website instead now. Like I'm failing. I've came across this thing that was like 90% of startups fail, this stat. I was like, whoa, dude, like I'm going to buy one that's past that 90% failure rate. And I taught myself how to do research and due diligence. And then I got into that, bought one and another one, and people found out. And then they're like, mate, can you teach me how it's done?
Got it. And can you put a little bit of a timeline around actually everything that you said? So how long were you a plumber? And then how long were you sort of traveling and going back and forth? And then with the travel blogging, like how long did you give that, and just sort of set a timeline for us?
Yeah. So I was plumbing. So I got out of school and I was plumbing from like 2005 to 2000 and probably 2014. And yeah, 2013. And I bought my first business then, but in between 2012 to 2014, I was travel blogging for 2 years. And I also had my travel blog whilst I was building this first drop shipping store. And I built that up over 6 months, 8 months, and I kept it. And then I just shut it down later because it just wasn't making money and it was costing me hosting and all that fun stuff. So, and then since mid 2014, I've been buying sites, and I got to a point where I bought my first business in 2014, and then I bought a second one in 2015. And within a short period, I had two businesses, and I was making more from my full-time gig I was a supervisor at the plumbing firm at this time. And so I quit, and then I went away and traveled, and then I bought a third business, and then it just grew from that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Gotcha. And for the businesses that you purchased, can you give us an idea of like the business model? Obviously, there's many different ways to make money. I usually focus on Amazon affiliate marketing, and some people have sites based on AdSense or whatever, right? There's tons of possibilities. So do you have like a sweet spot that you just personally enjoy more?
Yeah, I do. This is one that I didn't tell you off air. I'm going to tell you now because it's my first business I bought, and I think it's quite cool. It was a membership model, right? And I bought a membership model business, and I was like, I really like this because it's making recurring income every single month. People already signed up, and I had that for a little bit, and I shut it down just because it was getting old, and it wasn't viable to keep it open. And the other two that I bought were drop shipping businesses and the drop shipping model. And I've stuck to drop shipping, and a lot of my clients are buying drop shipping businesses, also other types of sites too. But drop shipping was a model that I really dug and got into, and yeah, I liked it.
Cool. And one observation that I have is, one of your first sites that you were trying to start from scratch on your own was indeed a drop shipping site. So you had like prerequisite information. You knew some stuff that definitely didn't work, right? So like for you to stick with it and like buy those kind of businesses, it makes like perfect sense to me, because like you're skipping the that failure rate period in the beginning. So, I mean, do you have anything to add about that?
Yeah, that's a great pickup, Doug, is that when people first move to this space of buying websites, is like, what sort of business should I buy? And sometimes people have no like background of I had a little bit in drop shipping, but when you do come to it, is that, use what you know already. And like if you know a bit about drop shipping or a bit about affiliate sites like, you do and all these different types of stuff, then stick with that type of business model. If you don't, then find one that clicks with you and makes sense to you and it's easier for you to understand. Like if it's easier for you to understand affiliate sites and you're like, yeah, I get this, rather than drop shipping, then move forwards to that. And that's why I just picked I like membership models. I'd learned a lot about them, but it was in a drop shipping space. So I went and bought it and I knew a lot about it. And that was a massive advantage when I first started. So yeah, that's a great pickup. Thanks.
That's why I'm here. If that's the only one I have today, the only good question, then, I'll take it. So for these sites that you're looking at, obviously, it's pretty hard to understand if it's going to be a site with a lot of growth potential, if it's actually legit, if it's making the money that they say, and so on. I don't even know all the things you have to check out. Due diligence, they call it, right? So can you just tell me about that process and just some tips for people?
Yeah, so that's a tongue twister, due diligence. Always get it, and all the clients do as well. But it is important. The first thing that I look for is the opportunities before I look for the red flags, like you mentioned, and like how to grow it. Like they're the opportunities. Like, so I will look at different things like do they have an email list that they're not currently marketing? Do they have a social media accounts that they're not currently targeting or posting content? When was the last SEO work that they've done and what was it? And what type of improvements could we do to the SEO to get it ranked higher in the search engines, get more traffic coming in? What type of marketing is being done? Is it working? If it is working, great. Why is it working? So we can double down on it, make that marketing even better. If it's not working, why is it not working? So we can make it better as well. And the key question that I like to ask is why? And why is it like this? Why is it like that? And I know I sound like a child when I ask the why question so much, but it's so good because you get so much information when you're doing your research and due diligence. So first of all, when I'm scanning for businesses, I look for all these opportunities of like, how can I grow this business? And what I just rattled off there is just like a real snippet. That's what goes on in my brain. I put it out on paper and into other forms of like education that people can consume. But when it comes to the point where I look for like red flags, we call them red flags, or things that raise something that we need to check out, that's where we dig into the deep due diligence and finding out like, all right, what SEO work has been done, and has there been any black hat SEO? For people listening, you got the two different types of SEO: white hat, black hat, gray in the middle. Black hat, not so good. Well, not good at all, especially according to the new update on Google. But yeah, so we check out what are some things that are concerning, and then ask those harder questions to the sellers. And that can be anything through the marketing, through the SEO, through the competition, financials, and a few other things that we look for as well. So yeah, pointing out those red flags is really, really, really important. Things that you can't see. Yeah.
Cool. And have you, I guess, like, what's the weirdest sort of red flag that you've seen in the due diligence process?
Yeah. So there's been so many. One last week. This one of the guys posted in the group. He's like, "Oh, this person wants to sell their site, and they want to sell the Australian domain with the .com.au." And he said, "Is it something I should be cautious of, that the person who's selling it wants to have me sign a document or agreement that he can still trade his services and products in Australia, even if I buy the .com.au?" And that's a huge red flag. And that was quite weird for me to be asked that question. Somebody that's a total beginner to this space, which is it's a fair question, but that raises a massive red flag. Like, why would you buy a business off somebody and allow them to keep trading, which is going to be your competition. They're already way more built up than what you've just bought.
Right.
So that was quite a weird one. Yeah, it's odd.
Have you had, from the financial perspective, like I know as an entrepreneur who didn't know anything about, business or marketing or doing anything on my own, it was a little shaky. Luckily I could like work a spreadsheet pretty good, but it was a little shaky, like keeping track of the books. And, I think I wrapped it up pretty tight early on, but have you seen just like terrible books where, someone is saying they're making a lot of money, but then when you start looking, there's a lot of empty spaces in this story of profit?
Oh, it's so common. It's so common. You've got people that are all over marketplaces, and Flipper's really cleaning this up, which is really good because I just spoke to the Flipper CEO a couple of weeks back, and they're putting some tools in place to prevent this. But there have been, and people that buy websites off a platform here in Australia, it's called Gumtree. It's much like eBay, but you can sell just products Australia wide, and people sell websites even on eBay and this place called Gumtree. And one person wrote me probably a year or 2 years ago, "Oh, hey Jaryd, I really want to buy this website. It's $15,000 to buy it, and it's making $12,000 a month. Do you think this is a good investment?" And anybody that sees those numbers is like, "That's awesome! Like, get it! Like, that's such a good deal." But it's just so unrealistic,
right?
Like, and I just wrote back to him like, "No, that's terrible. It's just why would somebody sell something worth $15,000, or something for $15,000 when it's only making 12?" And yeah, that's very common to see that where businesses are selling for like $10,000 and they're making $2,000 a month, or $100,000 and they're making $50,000 a month. And you're like, it's just not realistic. The multiple is very different these days. Mm-hmm. And so that's something to very be wary of. I have had personally a website that I bought. My second business is I bought one, and the currency, it was an Aussie business and it was being sold in US dollars, but it was using a company in a different country with a different currency. So there's 3 currencies that I had to convert, and the books on the international currency that wasn't Aussie or US dollars was like so hard to understand. And I put my hand up, I was like, "Dad, just like," my dad loves like accounting type stuff and doing book work. I was like, "Dude, can you please just like look at this? Because I don't get it. It's a great business. I can see it's making great money, but I just don't get it."
Yeah.
So, and that's a huge tip for everybody is put your hand up for help when you want to do any sort of investing or achieve any level of success, I reckon.
Got it. Okay. And moving on to like actually purchasing a site. So obviously there's a lot of brokers out there. We have some mutual friends and contacts at different, brokers across the world as it is.
Yeah, we have lots actually.
Yeah. So do you have any that you work with frequently or that you want to mention here for people to check out? You mentioned Flippa just now.
Yeah. People buy, yeah, I've had people go through and go through Flipper, and Empire Flippers is a huge one. They're just like, they're crushing the space at the moment. Those two, like I'm not, how should I put it? I'm not biased to any one of them because there's deals everywhere and everybody has, good deals available at certain times. So I'm not biased to just one, even though that you and I both know a lot of brokers and people that have started those bigger brokerage firms and stuff like that. And they do all great work and they have great deals for different people at different times. And I don't want to just single out just one. So there's so many out there.
Yep. And I'll mention Empire Flippers. They let me guest post there a couple times. So I like them, of course. Yeah. And then I know FE International, good folks over there. And then the thing that I didn't realize, and as I've been in the space a little while, there's so many like private brokers and private equity, like maybe it's family businesses or just there's money out there and people are spending like a lot of money. It's kind of insane when you start poking around. So you've run across this, Jaryd, as well?
Yeah, just this morning there was a guy. One of my mates just sent me a quick Slack message saying, "Oh, hey, you should check this guy out." And I went on, and he's selling and buying deals anywhere from 10K up to like plus $1 million. And the guy, like, I hadn't even heard of the guy, but we had like 14 mutual friends or something like that, with all these brokers that you just mentioned, FE International, Empire Flippers, you've got Latona's Quiet Light Brokerage, like Mark Dowse and all these different people. But like, I'd never heard of this guy, and he, they're crushing it. Like, just, yeah, there's so many people out there with decent sized money. And I spoke to Richard Patey from Flipping Websites on his podcast, and he doesn't buy businesses himself. He uses investors as money and flips them. And they, there's a lot of money out there. People that want to buy sites, they don't know a whole lot about it, but they just want somebody experienced in the field. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's tough for, like, let's say it's a private equity, investment group, and they don't have the skills. They know the opportunity is out there, but they don't have the skills. So it's cool for somebody like Richard to, spearhead the situation, provide some of the expertise, and at least, steer the ship so that they're not like throwing away money or anything like that. And of course, it's really, profitable for everyone. Everyone wins. So one piece, and we're going to dive deep into the weeds here. So let's say, you've identified a site, you found it at some brokerage or something like that, and you see, very few to no red flags, some good opportunities for growth, and maybe it happens to be like in your, wheelhouse of skills as well. So what do you do? I imagine you want to try and get some growth, right? You don't want it to just stay static. So what do you do after you buy the site?
Yeah, so what I do is I just try to become a sponge and absorb as much information from the seller first before I go away and make radical changes. There are a lot of people out there that do go away and buy businesses and like, look, let's just jump in there and make all these changes. And this is some stuff that I've done before. Like, I'm that type of person that's like a massive action taker. And so the first thing I'll do is like, I'll really work out how the business is running as a machine, and see for a month or two what parts are doing well, what are not doing so well, and is it viable to change those things. And then once I know a fair bit about it, and it depends whether it's got VAs or employees with the business. If it's got VAs, then that's a massive advantage, because you got access to these guys for the duration that you own the business if they're going to stay on board. And they know so much more about the business than you. So I bought a business with some VAs, and like I did 3 calls with the seller. I learned so much, but I learned a world more of knowledge than from the VAs. So I really absorb as much as I can from them, because they're in the business on the ground. So that's the first step, is I learn as much as I can about the business. And then I take the strategy that I put down on paper that I wanted to do to change the business. And then I ask myself again, are these changes what the business actually needs? And if so, how do I implement them? If they're not, how do I change them? And then I start making those changes. So whether it's like, all right, SEO, what's the most important thing for SEO right now? Marketing, what's the most important thing that needs to be done to the marketing right now? And then I when I do make those changes, is identify the low hanging fruit of like some small tweaks and some small changes that I can make to grow the business. And the low hanging fruit could be they have an email list, and it could be a couple of thousand subscribers strong, and it hasn't really been targeted. And that's a low hanging fruit where I could just write a couple of emails, introduce myself as a new owner, or just say, hey, there's a change in management and we're changing a few things. We want to make sure we can ensure this business gets better, or whatever it is, and then start building a better relationship with them, start making some more revenue out of some email marketing. So a few different things is the first thing, listening, learning as much as you can, double checking your strategy, identifying the low hanging fruit. And then the fourth thing would be implementing the strategy that you've changed for growing it.
Do you have any tips for prioritizing what to do and when? You mentioned the low hanging fruit, which that makes sense. It's a little bit easier to get to, right? But let's say you have a few that it's hard to tell what's easier or what's going to have the best ROI in a short or long term time frame. So how do you figure out what to do when?
Yeah, I think it's a tough one because it really depends on the business as well. Like if the business it's got a lot of expenses and they're not as important, and you want to get some income into the business, I think that's something to just jump into straight away. But say, for example, it's got a lot of expenses and it's making a decent amount of income, but you can see there's more value to be added in earning more income, more opportunity there. I'd say stick with the expenses that are there anyway because they're getting used, so you don't have to relearn new tools or whatever you use to sub out those other ones. And then, go for that opportunity and earning the income quicker rather than just taking away the expenses. And it really depends on the shape of the business and the business. I would love to give you just like this definitive answer, but I think that's the best I can do.
Yeah.
With that one.
No, I mean, that's when I get questions like that, usually as long as you don't make like a catastrophic mistake where you can't have flexibility to adapt, it's probably okay. And the thing is, you never know which is the better decision because you can't go back in time and do the other thing. So as long as you don't totally fuck it up, it's usually okay. So yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, that's the deal. You have to make a decision with not enough information. You don't know if it's right. Try not to mess up too bad. And then hopefully, you'll learn from it at the end of the day, even if it wasn't the best decision. So cool. That makes sense. So for, you primarily focus on, drop shipping sites. From an SEO perspective, I spend a lot of time with SEO and being ignorant about drop shipping sites. Is SEO a huge deal? You mentioned it a couple times. Where does it land sort of on the spectrum of things that are important for you and your sites?
That's a great question. Just dropping some awesome questions, Doug. I love it. This is so good, and the reason I love this one is because right now I see that SEO is very, very important, and it always has been important. But specifically now, had been spending a bit of money in Facebook marketing, and the results hadn't just across the board with a lot of friends in Australia and people I know in the industry that aren't getting the results that we were getting, this time last year or earlier. And Google's updating their algorithm. They've made a really massive change, and they're really rewarding people that are putting some solid SEO work in to their businesses and websites. So I feel that SEO is such an important thing at the moment. That's as compared to other things that I can grow my business, I would say that's one of the most important things. One of the biggest things that I'm working on, which is why I'm producing so much content, is so I can have it on my site and so I can get ranked higher in my buying online business business and connecting with so many people because it's just a massive win across the board. I get to have fun while I do it, and people love it, and it's going to get me ranked higher, and I get to reach more people and actually help people with my mission. So SEO is one of the biggest things, is the biggest thing that I'm working on right now.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, and I'm big on SEO, and this is meta, very meta, as we're going to talk about being on a podcast, in a podcast. And here's the deal, right? So we got an introduction, right? So we knew some mutual people. You shot me an email and I was like, this guy seems like he can communicate well. I want to talk to him, and you're going to get a backlink from the podcast. We're putting it on YouTube. A few, 100 people are going to see and watch and all that stuff. So you're going to get a backlink and you're going to get traffic through it. And you could be a guest on other podcasts and tell your story. Like you said, it's enjoyable. You're building your network and you get a backlink at the end of the day. So for people, if you could figure out how to be on podcasts, there are so many out there and people are looking to interview folks. So check it out. Again, very meta. But even for drop shipping sites or affiliate sites, you could do it too. People are into whatever weird little thing that you're doing. they are into it. I mean, the conversation that we're having now is so deep, but like many thousands of people are very interested in this stuff. So any thoughts on that, Jaryd?
Yeah, I love it. And that's just so true, is that you can have so much fun doing it. And the deeper that you go, normally I find the better for everybody else, because they get it at a way deeper level. And when we really get things at a deeper level, it's sort of like in a different level of consciousness. It's something that we really need to hear, that can help us propel towards what we are trying to achieve in our websites and businesses. And so, yeah, and like you said, the people that are doing drop shipping or affiliate sites, say I'm writing affiliates, I've got affiliate product that's like a phone.
Before you, I usually try not to give anything. Use ballpoint pen, just so we don't give away anyone's. Yeah, it's a ballpoint pen. Go ahead.
Ballpoint pen, right? And I've got all these. I'm writing all these videos. I'm writing all these blog posts about these different ballpoint pens, because like it just helps me write so much better. And then what I can do is I can create a podcast, and I can get different people that are producers of ballpoint pens, whether it's like $10 up to the $500, $1,000 ballpoint pen. I can get them on, and they can tell us why their ballpoint pen is better than a lot of other people's, and we can talk about ballpoint pens and enjoy it. And it's easier to do on a podcast or a video or interview, whatever it is. And that's for SEO. That's what people are consuming the best at the moment, right? Not many people want to read as much. So, and the cool thing is you could get free pens, and you could do some free pens for people that subscribe to your list, some promo for them and for you. And, you get a link, and that link to like that ballpoint pen that's charging $1,000 per pen is going to boost you up quite high. And that means you're going to make more affiliate commissions and affiliate sales from doing so. And I think it's just a really good medium to go for at the moment. That's the way people are consuming content, and you can enjoy it, and it's fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for the content that you are producing, aside from podcasts, I take it you're doing the written word blog post as well, right?
Actually, no, not so much. I am going to take my videos and create them into posts and embed my videos into that. That's something I haven't gotten to yet, but yeah, I'm not actively texting.
Okay.
Typing,
written word. Okay, cool.
Written,
cool.
Yeah.
All right, interesting. Which is like I started with the blog and then moved into YouTube and then to the podcast, where you'll be doing the same thing in a different order, where I'm repurposing written content to other formats and having conversations and all that. But okay, interesting. As far as the offsite SEO portion of it, so we kind of alluded to, getting the backlinks through collaboration via podcast and all that stuff. But do you do other sort of like link building or promotion type activities?
Yeah, I don't actually. I was doing some link building with one of my sites, and I had some SEO people do some of that. It didn't really amount to much because they weren't the greatest at it. But I haven't really done too much link building myself. It's mainly just the SEO that I'm doing now is what we just talked about. On-page SEO, such as like, the keywords and the descriptions and the meta and the, all those things that need to be there. I have been I've changed my hosting, get my site loading faster, which is for everybody listening. The quicker your site loads, the better the SEO is going to be, and taking away things off my site that's just not needed. I changed my site last year, better brand. I've taken some things off like sliders that were slowing my site down. It's a lot cleaner.
Gotcha. And I just actually went through the same exercise where I didn't have a slider, but there was just a lot of bulk, and I've like pared it down where it's like just the content is front and center. Especially like with a written word, it's like no one really cares about, the little boxes with a shadow around it. It doesn't really matter that much. So, Okay, cool. So moving on to some mistakes that you've made. So I know when I got started, and actually still now, I make a lot of mistakes. They're just like way bigger and more expensive. So that's what happens when things go well. You just make bigger
And
mistakes.
more stressful.
Yeah. So do you have any mistakes, or as many as you want to share? I know I've made so many that I'm sure you got a laundry list of them too. So go ahead.
Yeah. Being one is in this particular space is being one platform sensitive, where I was heavily in, social media traffic. It wasn't so much in Google and SEO and different search engines. That's a big mistake. And I had seen it all over the internet, and people were like, this is something that I should know as a business owner and buying websites. And when I first started, I read about it. I was like, yeah, that's cool, but I can cross-contaminate to different, mediums of traffic once I own the business. And I thought that's really, really cool. What my biggest mistake was going, oh, this is working, bright and shiny object syndrome, they call it, SOS. Like this thing's working. Like, let's just pour more money and time into this, and don't worry about what's not working.
Right.
Huge mistake, because, when that thing stops working as well as it was, then it really hurts. It really kills your pace. So that's a huge thing. Huge mistake is not be one platform sensitive. A minimum of two. If you go to too many, I feel it's like if you're like trying to do like Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, Pinterest, all these different ones. I try to stick to 2 to 3. So that's a huge mistake that I made. Another mistake was the biggest mistake I feel. I'll start with one, and then there's another really big mistake as well. Is that I bought into the whole thing of like, to make money online, I need to start my own online business. And I'm not biased to this. I try not to be anyway, as best as possible. But I try to start my own online business, and there's a combination of two things that happen. The first was like, all right, to make money online, I need to start an online business. That's the first mistake that I made. The second, and that's not true, because I found there was a different approach where I could buy businesses instead, or do JVs with people, or whatever it is. That's a huge mistake that I made. Is like, I need to make money online. There's one thing that I can do, and that's start a business or a website business. That's huge. The second biggest mistake was that not only did I want to start this online business, but I needed to do it alone. And the reason I needed to do it alone, and I perceived it, is because I saw everybody all over the internet, all over social, sharing that they're a self-made millionaire. And that's a huge mistake, because nobody, in my opinion, is self-made, because we all read books. Well, most people read books. A lot of people read books. A lot of people listen to podcasts, read something off the internet, go to school, learn something off somebody, hear something over another conversation, or go away, get a coach and a mentor. Anybody that's achieved any level of success has had somebody on their side. So there's two massive stuff ups. I was biased to like, I need to start a business, and it needs to be me. And then the second thing is it needs to be me by myself, because I'm going to be a self-made millionaire and be this awesome success story. So those three mistakes are huge. And as soon as I stopped those and I started putting my hand up for help and realizing that instead of competing with everybody, why don't I just collaborate with everybody? Like change that word competition to collaboration. Mm-hmm. And it's just a game changer for me, and like fun, and relieves the stress. Like the amount of stress and pressure that I put on myself because I need to start a business and I need to do it alone, and nobody could tell me how because I needed to find it out for myself. It's just dumb.
Yeah. All great points. And you mentioned books. So do you have maybe like top 2 or 3 books that you really, found influential over the last few years here?
Yeah. The top one is The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. It talks about emotional intelligence and how to, deal with things that pop up in life. Happens, right? And we get, things that really causes stress. And I was going through a stressful period. I had 2 businesses. I was running this. I was a supervisor for a plumbing firm. When I found this book, it was such a relief because it really helped me understand so much of what was going on in my life and how to deal with it emotionally. And that was a great book. It sees that, it teaches you that the obstacle actually is the way. On the opposite side of our fear, on the opposite side of our problem, is if we tackle those, we get the answer. And that's the thing that we actually need to grow. Now, a lot of people in life, I feel, and I see it everywhere, is they've got too many fears and they don't want any more fears. They don't want any more problems. They don't want any more struggles. For me, personally, I'm a bit of a sicko, and people think that I'm a bit of a sicko is because the more problems I have, the more fears I have, the more struggles I have, the more I grow. Right?
Yeah.
So that's a huge book. Is the Obstacle is the Way. Another one would be. There's so many books. That's probably my favorite.
Okay.
For somebody who's going to try and make money online, a really good one that I got was Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels. Mm-hmm. His book, Expert Secrets. You could probably still get it for free. That's his deal. You just pay shipping and get it for free. That's a really cool book.
Mm-hmm. Before you go, I've seen that book and I've seen, ClickFunnels, and you know what? I'm sure it's great. But I just can't, I hate his video, ads that I would see. And it's just, it's too much for me. But I mean, I'm sure it's a great book. People seem to love it. ClickFunnels is amazing and blah, blah, blah. But I'm just like, I don't like the way he talks in all the ads that they were shoving down my throat for like a couple years straight. But that's just me. So it's good though.
Yeah, I actually, the book's really good. I got the book before I got ClickFunnels.
Okay.
And now I have ClickFunnels, and I've gone away, and there's other tools that you can use, but it's very simple to use. I don't endorse it. I don't have an affiliate link. The reason they've grown so much is because people make so much money off their affiliate commissions. Yep. And so I'm not the person like, hey, come and use my affiliate link for that. But I believe it's good. I like it. And I'll stick with it for a little bit for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. and that was the other thing. I kept seeing like people talking about how much like, ClickFunnels was allowing them to make. And it was through selling ClickFunnels with ClickFunnels in the funnel. And I was like, all right, something's a little fishy there, but obviously great businesses are built on it. I use another tool that does, actually I have a Frankenstein set of things, but Deadline Funnel for me, works fine. It did the job, a portion of the job of ClickFunnel. And what happens, as you know, you end up with a tech stack that you put together over time. And then you end up with like integrations that work. And if I move to something else, things would break in the migration. So I'm like, it works. Like it's not perfect, but it works. So
yeah. And I have gone, all right, I've only got a couple of different funnels that I'm using with this thing. Why don't I just pay a VA to go away and change it all over to like the one website, the one hosting, all that sort of stuff. Don't need to pay this monthly fee. But then again, if I want to go away and change it, then I'm going to have to hire somebody to change it again. And I could do it myself really quick. Right, as soon as I have the thought, I can get it done rather than, I'm going to have to hire a team, like get my team onto it and stuff like that. One thing that I don't like about ClickFunnels is that they've got great support, but because it gets so much, there's so much exposure to people trying to on-sell it as for affiliate commissions, is that sometimes when I have gone to solve a problem, I've typed it in, and the only thing that I've got is somebody's like pages and pages of people trying to sell me to already get back on ClickFunnels because they're going to make a commission. So they get banked up so high on Google, on the search engine. I'm like, oh man, I've got this thing that's been annoying me for like 3 days. I need to fix this problem. And you're just trying to sell me again.
Right. It's a vicious cycle. So
yeah.
Okay. Moving on from ClickFunnels and back. No, that was my fault. I mean, that's the beauty of the tangents that we can go on here. I'm gonna backtrack and tie together another thread here. So you mentioned that you purchased a business that had some VAs, and it sounded like you did a pretty good job onboarding them and working with them as the new owner. And you also mentioned that you were a supervisor at your previous gig. So it sounds like you had some management skills. Can you give any tips for people that actually tell me about the management skills that you have and the HR abilities and all that. And then hopefully some tips for people that don't have that. Hiring VAs is very scary for people that haven't done it before. So what can you tell us about all that?
Oh, wow. There's so much there. I don't I sucked at management, if I'm going to be honest. I started to get good when I started learning more about coaching. And what I've learned when I bought that business is to make sure that I listen to everybody and take everybody's advice and take it all with a grain of salt, and then make a decision that's right for the vision of the website of the business, not anyone's individual sort of like, I want this because it's going to be better for this and it's going to be easy for me. Whilst that's the case, yes, it may not be the best thing for the client or the customer or anything like that. So one thing is to be an amazing listener. And this is a hard thing because I can talk for days and used to be able to cut people in, but the best I can do now is to just force myself to listen. And when I do that, is not just listen to respond, but listen to understand. And when I can do that, I can really see where they're coming from. And then I take that away, sit with it and think, all right, what's the best for the vision of the company? And that's a really big thing is listen, and don't take anybody's individual goals into account if it's going to clash with the vision of the website. Your other thing was hiring people, like how to go about that. Now, this is a fun thing. It's so fun. They say be slow to hire, fast to fire. I definitely agree with that. That's something that I've taken on board, and I've taken multiple people off my team this year. Not because they weren't any good, but because the business model was changing. And when I first started hiring, I jumped on Upwork and I looked at as many people as I could, and I tried to look at you can read reviews on reviews, and you just don't know until you get them working for you. You just don't know. So you have to, yes, do your best to really make a right decision. And then you might need to go through 2, 3, 4, 5 different VAs to get the one that you want to keep on board with you. And it's frustrating when you've gotten your second one and you're like, this person's no good. And you're like, I got to go back to the drawing board and do it again. And yes, you do. But if you understand that this is a process, and you know that in the end you're going to have somebody that's going to work with you for a long time and they're good, you trust them, they trust you, and they're going to do the right things, it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. A second thing when hiring is that you get what you pay for. And a lot of people, when I first started, was like, I'm going to hire this person because it's like a couple of dollars an hour. This is great. And the work just wasn't there. And it's actually cost you more money in the long run to have to hire somebody to do it again, or you to change it yourself. So it's going to cost you more time and more money. So normally it's better to pay for the quality in hiring. And that's my biggest tip there when you're hiring VAs or anybody really is you pay people what they're worth.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny, I just got an email from someone the other day. They said, hey, why don't you use this other VA service? You can get it for way cheaper. But it's not about getting it for cheaper. It's about getting a better ROI and getting quality, not getting your attention pulled away because someone made a mistake. And now you have to go fix it and then figure out what to do with them. So, it's really common. I mean, I was that way too, right? In the very beginning, you're like, I want to make sure my expenses are absolutely as low as possible. But it's not always the best idea. So cool. All right. So we're coming towards the end here, and I'm going to ask you where folks could find you in a second, but do you have any just advice for people who are looking to purchase businesses and, a mindset, anything that you want to just extend out to the audience here?
Yeah. So let's talk about people that I'll talk about mindset after I talk about the advice for people wanting to buy websites. Is when you do come to want to buy a website, is first go away and look on the website brokers, the ones that we talked about before, Doug, Empire Flippers, look at Flipper, look at FE International, Latona's, FE, Quiet Light Brokerage, all these different ones. Just jump on Google and just Google website brokers and you'll find a bunch of them. Look at the businesses for sale. See how much they cost, see how much they're making per month, average net profit, and then also find out how many hours it takes to run that sort of business. And you're going to learn from doing that, you're going to learn a few different types of business models, and that's really, really cool. Now that you know that sort of stuff, the second thing you need to do is really spend as much time and as much money as you want in educating yourself on how to do research and due diligence. Anyone can go away and buy a website. If I want to go away and spend, 50 grand or whatever it is that I may have and buy a site, I can do that. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be successful or I'm going to buy a good one. So I believe the most important thing is spend time and money on educating yourself how to do research and due diligence. And through that phase, my favorite thing is you're going to learn so many things on how businesses run already, how they're already growing their businesses. You're going to talk to so many sellers. And from doing that, you're going to get a Rolodex of ideas and ways that you can build a business that you end up buying for yourself anyway. And so that education is a double education there, is you learn how to grow and build businesses, but you also learn how to buy them. And I believe paying for that education is really important. You can find stuff online. If you want to do it that way, great, but it's going to take you a lot longer. And then lastly is anybody wanting to have any level of success in life in anything is like put your hand up for help, get a coach, get a mentor, get somebody to actually help you, to guide you along the process and do it. And that's the biggest advice I'd have for people buying websites. As for mindset stuff, is I have heaps of mindset principles that I do every day and every week. And the most powerful one is like we've talked about, Doug, is like we can get stressed in life. Everybody does, especially as a business owner. And if we can take that frustration into gratitudes, it's the most powerful thing that I've learned, is that being grateful. Like when I wake up in the morning, I think about things I'm grateful for. My partner, when we're not together, we text each other what our wins were for the day and what our gratitudes were for the day. And it's a funny thing. I tried to get that set up with her a while ago, and then she did some course. She's like, "Oh, we should do this." I'm like, "Yeah, we should definitely do that." It's funny. And so the gratitudes, the wins, and reminding yourself of where you're at. If you are having trouble, that's okay. Everybody has trouble. Everybody goes through that. And then another huge thing for mindset is you get what you focus on. Now, if you're focusing on, fuck, I hate my job, or excuse my language if that wasn't allowed,
nope,
but if you're like focusing like, oh, my car sucks because it doesn't start every single morning, or my car looks crap, and you're just comparing yourself to so many other things, and just being, focusing on all these negative things, like you're going to get more of that. And so when you focus on like, and this is some of my clients are like, I don't know why I'm not getting results. I'm like, well, how much time are you spending focusing on what you actually want? Like, are you doing any education? Like, no, I'm working too much. I'm like, okay, cool. The more you focus on work is the more you're going to get that, and it's easier for you going to stay there. So spend some time focusing on the things that you actually want to achieve, and not just spending time like maybe like a couple of hours a week, 2 hours a day or an hour each day of a weekday on learning or reading a blog post or listening to a podcast or whatever it is. Spend that time focusing on that. And then also what's really important is visualizing what you want, like visualizing your dream life. And if you focus on that, yeah, sure, it's not going to be like The Secret where like, poof, it's going to just land on your doorstep, because that just doesn't happen. It's like the power of manifestation is like think it, believe it, and you can achieve it. Yes, you can. But when you do that, there's something else that's really important and vital that you have to do. When you think about something and your goals and your mission and what you actually want to achieve, it doesn't just drop on your doorstep. But what does happen is the more you focus on it, the more opportunities in your life are going to pop up. And those opportunities may pop up on your doorstep. It doesn't mean you're going to get what you want. First, you need to take action on those opportunities. And that's the biggest step that most people fail to do, is like, I'm not achieving anything. Like, well, what are you doing about it?
Right.
You got to take action. Yeah.
Those are all fantastic points. And, one little, I can't keep my mouth shut. I guess I'm going to add like just a quick little underscore.
Yeah, bring it all.
So like the education, yes, absolutely. 100% agree. You have to have the baseline, but then there's I was in this camp, so I feel comfortable talking about it, where there's so much like education available. There's so much content all over the place. It's very easy to over-educate yourself to the point where number one, you can't make a decision because there's like too many possibilities because you filled your brain with too much stuff. And sometimes you have to, stop consuming because you know enough, and you have to execute for a while, get some feedback on that, maybe a little re-education, but you're nodding. So you know what I'm talking about. It's like, it's a balance of like education and execution, and then like a feedback loop to make sure you're getting the things done that you really like want to get done. So
I love it. And somebody once told me that wisdom is education plus reflection. And that's exactly what you just said. It's just, I love it, because decision fatigue is like, there's so many people exactly like you said, is they go away and they do all these seminars, they learn all this stuff, and like, well, I'm not achieving anything. I'm like, well, you've learned all this stuff. Like, are you doing it?
And it's tough because, sometimes someone will, educate really well. They'll actually execute well, but they pick the one little thing that kind of matters, but not really. And then that's where like having a mentor or someone with more experience, or someone in your mastermind group to observe from the outside and let you know, hey, pivot a little bit, like it's really close, like focus on this part, and then, things open up. So, okay, cool. So where can people find you, Jaryd?
Yeah, awesome. So they can just go to my website, buyingonlinebusinesses, plural.com. So buying online businesses. You can contact me through there. My website, jarydkrause.com, which is my name. And then on socials, I'm just Jaryd Krause as well, on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I don't really do the other ones because, but that's the easiest place to find me.
Awesome. Sounds great. And I'll put links and everything for the people so they can get to it without having to type it in and all that stuff. So thanks, Jaryd. Really appreciate it. And have a great day.
Thank you so much for having me aboard. I really appreciate it as well. And I had so much fun. So thank you.
Thanks. Thanks again to Jaryd. I really appreciate the time. And don't forget, everyone, check out his podcast. Check out his free resources over there at Buying Online Businesses that could be helpful for you if you're looking to buy a business. And I'm going to hit a couple, actually just one question here that I think hopefully it will fit. Hopefully it will fit into the topic of, today. We talked a lot about drop shipping, and as I mentioned in many previous episodes, I primarily deal with affiliate marketing, and it is a different business model, a lot of pros and cons for each one. And people may be thinking, well, Doug, it sounds like drop shipping is great. Why don't you do drop shipping? Well, the honest answer is I don't really want to. So I ended up doing affiliate marketing because that was the first thing that worked for me. And I was aware of drop shipping. I was aware of Fulfilled by Amazon, retail arbitrage, Kindle publishing, fill in the blank, right? There's so many different business models out there. In fact, one of these business models that sort of makes me, I don't like it that much, is where people talk about like sales funnels, and then they just sell you the software to create sales funnels, and the only thing they're selling is the sales funnel software, which is kind of funny and really good for the sales funnel software. I don't use that particular one, by the way. I'm not mentioning which one that is either, but I've just seen like so many people doing it that it's bananas. So that works too, though, by the way. You actually can provide value and good coaching and good information for a very recursive and meta like business like that, where someone is just selling funnel software to other people who, again, sell that funnel software. It's bananas, in my opinion, but that works too. And the reason why I'm going into this is, what should you work on, right? Like there's all these business models out there, and if you're just getting started, it may be very confusing. And the answer is, I don't really know. I don't know which one's going to work for you. You kind of have to look at your personality. You have to look at what you like working on and that sort of thing. I can tell you one thing you should do though, right? I don't know what you should work on. I don't know what's going to work for you. I don't know what you'll be most successful at. I have no clue, but I can tell you that you should probably pick a business model that looks good to you. You know, maybe it looks good on paper, and you got to try it for yourself. You got to see if it works. What you should not do is switch around and pick a bunch of different business models to work on roughly all around the same time, because what will happen is you will end up making a couple mistakes at the beginning. Everyone makes mistakes because you don't know what you don't know. So you will goof up. You'll make some mistakes. As long as they're not catastrophic, you'll be okay. You'll be able to recover and make it work, and then you learn from the mistake, and then you won't do it again. The problem, if you say start with affiliate marketing and it takes a few months and it's not really working out for you, you think, and then you switch over to drop shipping and you stick with that for a couple months, you build a Shopify store, you start learning Shopify, and then you're like, oh, well, this really is harder than I expected. And then you move over to Kindle publishing, and then you work on that for a little while, for a couple months, and it's not really gaining traction. Basically, you just end up with a string of projects that are failures that you are partially finishing. You're getting like 80% of the way there, and then you're deciding it doesn't work, and then you move on. And I know some people out there may be thinking, oh, that's not me though. It's so common though. If you just think back of your projects, like, do you have a bunch of projects that are like mostly done, but not 100%. And some things, it's hard to say that's 100% done, but at least you can have like a shippable product at the end of the day so that you are, confident that you gave it a fair shot. So my point here is you can do almost any of these business models and be successful. You can do all of them yourself too, over the course of a few years, or maybe a decade, or maybe a little bit longer. But the point is, you can't skip around and make all these beginner's mistakes in one business model and then another business model and then another business model and expect it to work out. Now, as I'm saying that out loud, I realize there's a good caveat, a very important thing, a point that I should make around that. You could end up doing what I just described, where you gain a little bit of skills in different areas over the course of a few years, and it all looks like failures over time, right? Partially finished projects, but what you end up doing is learning a very unique set of skills, a very unusual combination where maybe all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but over the course of several years, you realize that now you know how to write content, do SEO, ship products, sell things, do email marketing and sales funnels. And all of a sudden you have about 6 or 7 skills that maybe you're okay at. You don't have to be great, but the combination is very powerful. So the downside on that, of course, is it's really hard to plan for it. And it's really hard to know when it's going to work out. Because again, it looks like you have a bunch of failed projects in your wake. some may argue that's what my history looks like when you look at, actually, I'll just mention it really quick before we go too long, but you look back at my college career. I didn't do an awesome job. I went to a pretty good school and I did okay. I got an okay job, and then I was generally in the middle of the pack as far as performance. I wasn't really great at any one thing. And then I decided I didn't like working at that particular company anymore. And then I went to another one where I just like followed money. I learned a few things there, which was good. You look at my like real estate investing area. I bought a house at the like worst time in the last, I don't know, 150 years or something like that. I bought a house in like 2005, lost a ton of money on it. Eventually it went into foreclosure. And when you look at some of my early niche sites, right, you will see most of them didn't work out in the beginning for like the first several months. And then one of them did. And then, like I said, I do affiliate marketing because that's the first thing that worked for me. And now I've just been like iterating and refining my process. I see what works. I've gotten better at it over time. And now I can like teach people and they are successful, which I think is, a very, very powerful thing to help other people out. So anyway, the point is you may end up somewhere further down the line where you're like, oh, that's a pretty interesting combination of skills. So for me, I wasn't a great, management consultant. I was okay, but I learned about like a lot of people skills. Like when you're introduced to a company. Actually, this goes deep into management consulting, but so I won't go too deep on that. But the consultants know what I'm talking about. I was, young, inexperienced, and they would send me into like conference rooms with people that were way more experienced than me. And you have to be able to like operate in that fashion, even though if you may not know really what you're talking about. So part of it was that I wasn't a great public speaker, not a great presenter. I was an okay project manager. I was an okay software developer. I was an okay tester, and on and on and on. I didn't do a great job, trying to figure out which house to buy, and it's really hard to time the market. Sometimes you just have bad luck. Sometimes you have good luck. And overall, all of these things together are, I feel like it's a pretty good combination. And then when you fast forward to when I got into internet marketing, I didn't know much about like copywriting or branding or writing, like just even writing content for the web. I didn't know anything about email marketing. I didn't know about email list building. I didn't know about creating a course, and fill in the blank. I didn't know anything. I have no business background at all. I have an engineering degree, so I have no idea about marketing or business or anything like that. So all these things put together end up being an interesting combination. I'm making it work for myself. Externally people may have their own opinions about how things are going, but for me, it seems to be working pretty well. So anyway, I will leave it at that. Everyone have a great day. Check out Jaryd's blog, his podcast, and all his resources, stuff like that. And we will catch you on the next Doug Show. Thank you.